Uh, okay. We have to start the session and with the review of the questions. What is the difference between waterfall and agile software developing methods? Of course, as we mentioned yesterday, that these concepts are related to project management, and this it makes sense. Because software development, it's a project. It's considered as a project. And we mentioned that the waterfall and agile, they are totally different, where the waterfall, that the project processes, you have to move through all the processes one by one, and you are not able to go back. You will not be able to go back in the processes, especially if there is any changes in the objectives or the outcomes of the project. The agile, it is the opposite concept, where you can move freely between the phases. You can make changes for the objectives, because it's not the project is not dedicated to one phase at a time. No, this means that you can move smoothly between the different phases. You can move easily between the different phases. Okay. What is threat modeling? What are the threat modeling methods? Okay. Threat modeling is to identify the threats, identify the threats and how these threats, it can affect your organization. Is it high, low, medium, and so on? What are the threat methods? Threat modeling methods, of course, in CCSP, we have 4 methods. We have STRIDE, we have DREAD, we have PASTA, we have ATSM. And these are the models mentioned in CCSP. What is the definition of a STRIDE threat modeling? It is spoofing, tampering of data, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and escalation of privileges. These are the components of the STRIDE. And as we mentioned yesterday, but this, it is subjective. You don't have numbers, you don't have figures. These are subjective. And when we are saying, is it easy to spoof or not? Is it easy to tamper the data? Is it easy to make repudiation? When this, you have to check if these things are possible to do the attacks, or is it a secure application or not? Then this means that it will be able to evaluate the threat. Yes, Prem.
Sir, this information disclosure, and there is one more term called as information bleed. Are they one and the same?
Sorry, say it again. Information bleed and?
Information bleed, BLEED, like
okay.
Bleeding, and then information disclosure. Are they one and the same?
Frankly speaking, it is the first time to hear this bleeding, information bleeding, but from the word, yes, it will be almost the same, because this bleeding means that the information is start to act as a liquid and it is bleeding out of the body. When this means that the information is bleeding from the organization, then it can be considered as information breaching, the same as organization breach.
Okay.
Okay. What is the definition of DREAD threat modeling? We DREAD, this it will be the classification of the damage, reproduction, exploit, affected users, and discovery. This is very important to memorize these abbreviations, gentlemen. It is very important to memorize these informations. I am afraid that you have to memorize it, because it should be a very simple question, and I don't want you lose it. Threat modeling, it is more mathematical method than a subjective method because it will give a score from 0 to 10 for each factor of the thread modeling method, and you have to make summation for all these numbers and divide by 5 to evaluate the thread itself. What is the difference between stride and read? Main difference, gentlemen, both of them are the same. Both of them are the same. Both of them, we are thread management model. We are doing the same exercise. But what is the main difference between both of them? That the stride, it is subjective. It depends upon explanation, and you have to explain how it can affect the organization. This thread, for example, it is spoofing, or the application is it's not secure because it's easy for spoofing, because it is utilizing, for example, cookies. These cookies are not deleted. You have to mention all these things. But in the grade, it is mathematical form. In grade, it is very easy because you can understand that when we are saying grade, when mathematical representation, it can be represented by 5, by 0, by 8, by 9, and so on. If I'll say, gentlemen, thread level 9 and thread level 4, which one is more dangerous than the other? The thread model 4 or value 4 or value 9?
Value 9.
Yes, value 9. And this is again important to understand, because unfortunately I found some of my trainees, we are confused in these numbers, although it is very simple, but we are confused because when they get some questions related to the numbers, if you are confused, this means that the question, it will be totally lost. It is very important to make sure that you are understanding the concept or this in proper way. Which threat modeling method does involve business objectives and technical objectives? We mentioned that we have only one model, which it will include the business and the technical objective. And this model, it will be responsible or not responsible. I mean, it will first step in this methodology to define the objective. Second one, scope. When here the business needs, it will come. And this, it will be the pasta. Don't forget this, gentlemen. Just remember it by the pasta. If you like to eat pasta, then remember it. It's a pasta. It's not bread. It is not here, Sanati did not mention anything when it is pasta. It's the Prem, he gave the right answer. What does secure coding means? Mention 2 secure coding frameworks. Okay, secure coding means, gentlemen, that you have to make that you are using best practices and secure practices of the applications. This means that you are not using any open framework without testing. You are reviewing the code. You are testing the code in a proper way for any invalid input and so on. And as you mentioned here, except as all of you, but Mahmoud, you did not mention the ASVS. You mentioned the safe code and OS. It's right, OS, because ASVS, it is developed by OS. But why I am stressing on this? Because I am afraid that after some time, when you will apply for the exam, you may forget about these definitions. When you remember, yeah, it's OSB and safe code, but usually you will not see OSB at all in the exam. Safe code, you will see it because the company name, it is safe code, and the framework, it is safe code. When both of them are the same, but in the OSB, the organization, it's OSB, but the model, it's ASVS. When take care about these abbreviations, maybe you get some questions about it. What is the function of JET Puppet Chef application. We mentioned that it will be a collaboration tool. It will be a collaboration tool that it will be used during the coding, and it will share the code between the team who are working on the application. And it will be responsible also for versioning. Yani now the code version 1, code number version 2, 3, 4, then you will be able to know which code you are working in and which version and what are the features and so on. Puppet and Chef, they are applications which it is responsible for pushing configuration for all the servers. Pushing configuration for all the servers to make sure that all the servers are consistent in the updates of the configuration. What is the set? As you can see here, I start to play with the abbreviations. I will not mention the full name because you may have something like that in the exam. You may. Sometimes we are mentioned the name, full name, which is dynamic security. I forgot the full name. 1 minute, let me check.
Dynamic security analysis testing. DAS.
Analysis testing. You are right. You are right. This is very important. And what is it? It is a dynamic testing where we mentioned that it's a black box. It will be run against the live systems, and it will be the purpose of this one to discover any vulnerabilities in the application which it can be exploited by the hackers.
Sir, then one question: what is the what is DAST and DSAT are one and the same? Because DSAT, DAST.
No. This
is a typo.
It's it's misspelling. It is the dynamic
application security testing.
Yes, you are right, as it's mentioned here.
Okay.
Because when I am typing these questions, sometimes the check spelling, it will change it. Unfortunately, when I type it, I'm not repeated or review the questions because the time is very limited. When this is misspelling. The second, it is SAST, and we mentioned that this is the static one, and it is white box. It will be done internally from the network, and we want to discover whatever any vulnerabilities in the network. This which is called the SAST, and I think the next it will be difference between both of them. Yes, SAST and the AST. The SAST, it is white box. DAST, it is black box. The difference between them, that the static, you know what is the application, you know, you have full information about it, and you are trying to test it as a blue team from inside the network to discover any vulnerabilities or problems. But with this DAST, it is from outside. It is not a hacker. It is not like penetration testing. Penetration testing, it acts as a hacker. He will not discover the vulnerability just to discover it. No, he will try to penetrate the application itself. But in the DAST, what we try to do, that we are trying to discover the vulnerabilities from outside the network. And this, it will be the concept of the red team. And when you are working the SAST or DAST, you will get the white team, or as you mentioned, the purple team. I reviewed this naming, and I discovered that purple, it's mentioned in some books as well. When by the end of the day, whatever we name, but it is mix and match between both of them. I am here doing the exercise, and I have another one who try to check if this exercise is implemented properly or it is not. Yes, Prem?
Sir, I'm little confused now. Can you explain the difference between DAST and pen testing?
I think we have a
DST.
discussion later.
Okay.
What is the penetration testing? Penetration testing, as we mentioned, again, it's a black box. And this, it will be done against the live systems, and it will be done from outside. Why? Because I want to discover the vulnerabilities and penetrate the application, or compromise the application. Difference between the penetration testing and DST, that with the DST, I am act as a member of the group, but I am trying to discover the vulnerabilities from outside. Then still I am working as ethical hacker. It seems as an ethical hacker because I am trying to discover vulnerabilities from outside. It is opposite to the static, because the static is trying to discover statistics from inside. Penetration testing, it is not just to discover vulnerabilities. No, he will try to penetrate the application. He will try to what we can say arrange an attack against the application. You will try to arrange an attack against the application. This is what we call it the penetration testing. Which test is used to discover open source libraries and software in application source code? Software composition analysis. This is the right one, and we mentioned that it's used usually for discovering any source code, because for two reasons. Reason number one, as we mentioned, security issues, to review the code to make sure that it is not injected by any malicious lines, and to make sure that it is licensed for usage. What is the application test name which is used to test the abused application scenario? This is called abuse test, or abuse case test. Abuse case test. Abuse case test. Okay. This is, I think, a good on your side, and I think now we can start the new session. Do you have any questions before going for the new session?
I think, sir, this domain, it seems to be, I think we will have to memorize a lot, I think, compared to the other domains. This domain has a lot of models and other things. I think one is understanding, but I think a lot of memorization is also required.
So, Prem, it is not required memorization if you understand the concept, and definitely names are there, but I don't think so. It's not something we need to remember.
No, actually, Sanat, why I said is in my last attempt, they actually asked which is the third or something fourth in the serial order. So there I forgot the name. So I think is that acronyms memorization is absolutely required. One, not
Acronym.
Yes,
Acronym you need to remember.
Yes. If you
Concept wise, SAS, DAS are like, it's very common concept. Nothing like
the
very
SAS does no correct, especially in pasta. What is the S or something like that? They confuse the question. It is very difficult to just remember. You have to remember this again and again.
I mentioned this day before yesterday, and I told you, gentlemen, you have to memorize these things. From my point of view, these are simple questions. You should not lose it. Yani, even if you keep it as these abbreviations in a piece of paper, you can review it before the exam by one night or one day, this it will be okay. But these questions, and sometimes you may not ask you directly about the abbreviation, but in some situation, it may give you a scenario when you will start to think, This threat model, it is caring about what? When you have to remember what are the abbreviations, when you will say, okay, he is caring about business. When business, it is not coming, for example, in trade or in stride or whatever, it is coming in the pasta, because we have the objectives, we have the scope. All these things you can think about it. Yani sometimes, gentlemen, you will find that you are trying to answer the question in indirect way, especially first time when you read the question, you will get shocked. And my advice, when you are get shocked when you read one of the question, don't go through the rest of the question, highlight it, or what is it's called, mark the question and leave it, move to the other, because after you will finish and when you return back to this market question, you will feel that you are relieved, because
Sir, now ISC square does not, if you skip a question, you cannot go back to the question. Which means, so what you said is, suppose if I read a question and suppose if I am not able to understand, I have to simply skip, but I will never be able to come back to that question. You cannot go back.
I don't think so, but anyway,
Sir, I have written the exam, so I remember it. So it does not allow you. In fact, I cleared CC in November. It does not allow you. All the ISC square exams, you cannot go back to the previous question. Earlier, maybe I think when you were writing, it was allowing. Now they have not. They have stopped it. So either you answer it, or you take more time in answering it, or you simply skip and then probably mark something and then go. You cannot go back.
I want to check this, because this is frankly speaking, it's first time to hear it, and it's very strange for me, because my last group, when we attended the exam, they were able to go forward and backward in the exam, but I cannot remember which month. Anyway, leave this now. I will check it and we will discuss it later after I checked with in the ISC square. Okay, let's start our session now. Now we will continue for some software verification, secure verification, or verified secure software. What are the steps to make sure that your software or service is secure? Number one, it is approved API. What is approved API? As we mentioned, API, this is application program interface, and we have to make that these APIs are secure. When approved means that it is already reviewed. The code, it's already reviewed. The interface code, it's reviewed. And you are sure that it is properly contain the comments which it will do the right function. It is not collecting data or represent worm or virus or whatever. This is very important. This is step number one. You have to understand also what is the type of the API which you are using and what is the encryption which you will use it. As you remember that we have the API, we have the REST versus, so we have two types of what we can say, the APIs. The APIs, the SSL, this it's used the SSL TLS, and this one it's used the encryption. It can be IPsec or whatever. Then again, this another method which you have to make sure that it is working in a proper way. It is working in a proper way. Otherwise, it may be a good or approved API, but it's not having the encryption. When this means that all the data is in clear text, then it will be very easy to be captured or to be reconnaissance, have a reconnaissance attacks. Okay. The other concept which you have to check is the supply chain management. And when we are saying the supply chain, this means that you have to understand that each system or each application, it is not only one piece of software. It is a huge number of pieces, different pieces of software, APIs, it is components, it's libraries, sometimes external data sources, the internal data source and which is collecting the data. All these components are working together. When in front of you, it is a single application, but in the background, it is not a single application. It has a lot of components. It have multiple components. It have libraries. It have external sources. In some situation, it may communicate with other source or other website to collect some other data and propose this data for you. It may be different components and so on. Also, we have the integration of the external API calls. If I have an API call, then this a call that I have to check for a specific function or whatever. When this function, it may not be provided by the same cloud service provider. It may be provided by other cloud service provider or other component, and this component does not reside in the same cloud service provider. It may be reside in other one, and so on. When all these things, you have to review it and make sure that all components are running homogeneously without any program. In this way, it will be an efficient application. It will be an efficient application. And you have also to make sure that the code, it is authorized by the organization. The code is authorized by the organization. And usually when I'm saying authorized, that it is reviewed. The code is reviewed. If you are using APIs or external application or external components, and if you don't do it yourself, then you have to make sure that it is really configured properly and reviewed to make sure that this application is secure. Okay. Now we will speak about a very important topic. Although people usually ask me why we are discussing these related network security controls in the application security controls. In the application security control or as application security controls. Do you remember, gentlemen, when I told you that one of the main problems which we are facing usually that the developers, we don't understand the security. All the institutes and colleges all over the world, believe it or not, that for software developers, we are not teaching security. When developers, we don't understand the concept of security, we don't know the injections, we don't know what are the things which we have to understand before develop any application, what are the possible threats, what are the top 10 WASP risks, and so on. Then now, okay, let's say that we start to do our exercise as security professionals, developer, and we arrange security training courses, awareness for developers, and we had efficient auditing department which is able to audit the applications, behaviors, and all this stuff. But what will happen for the old applications which were developed before taking all these security countermeasures and safeguards for the application? What will be the solution? This means that these are unsecure solutions. Then, whatever any application right now which we have it may not be secure and it may compromise your network security. Why? Because, for example, the application it's not checking the input data. it is not checking the input data. Or if the application, you are sending a data to the client, he can change his data and send it back to the server. When any data, it will come back to the server, it should be checked. And if it's not checked, this means that you will be in a problem, because if the user, he changed the data, or in a hacker in between, he changed the data, you will not be able to discover it. And if the server is not checking the changed data, then he will accept it as is, and this is considered as a confidentiality problem. Okay. One quick question. Did you hear about compensation controls?
Yes.
What is it?
Compensation controls. Basically, if one control is not fully sufficient, you have another control which will exactly go and then, I mean to say, which will complement the existing control so that the risk is being controlled.
No, this is not the compensating controls. What you are saying, it is actually, if you have one control, it's not doing the exercise and you need another one, then by the end of the day, this is mitigation by using one or two controls. But if you, each one of them, it can do the exercise, but you're adding multiple protocols to add additional layer of security, this which we call it defense in depth. But this is not the definition of compensation controls. Do you know what is a compensation controls?
I think that is what I think I had learned actually. Compensatory control is, suppose in case if it's not sufficient, then the other one actually comes in. Defense in depth, I understand. That is multiple layered defenses.
No. Then, what is the compensation controls? Compensation controls, gentlemen, it will compensate the actual control, which is not possible. For example, we have an application, and for the application, we need to have review the code. We have the security controls. Number one, review the code. And number two, we have to check the input, data input. These are security controls. But unfortunately, the application which I am using right now, it is an old application. And this application, it is out of service. And even the developer, he is out of business. Then this means that I don't have the source code, and I will not be able to fix any bugs or vulnerabilities if it's discovered. Why? Because developer, he is out of business and he is not available anymore. Then what I have to do? The controls are very clear for me, and I am applying these controls for the other applications. But now these controls are not valid in my scenario. Why? Because this application is an old one. I know it is old, I know it's not secure and everything, and it is risky. Management accept the risk because there is no other chance, because it has a critical data for my business. Here it will come the role of the compensating controls. I will say, okay, install this application in a dedicated, isolated data center zone, which does not have any access, and protect this zone by firewall or web application firewall and so on. These are the compensating controls, because the original control, it's not available. I will not be able to do it for any reasons. Then what will be the compensating? I am trying to provide other method for protection. I will try to provide other method for protection. And this is why we will speak about some controls related to the network in the application areas. Why? Because this, it will be integrated with the application protocols. application security. If the application is developed in a proper way, excellent. I am secure. But this I can use these devices, network security devices, as defense in depth. Or if the application is not protected because it is badly designed, then I will use these devices or appliances to provide me the required security protection. First device which we will speak about, it is the firewalls. And of course, firewalls, gentlemen, it is a gateway. It's a gateway. Where
I have a question.
for,
In here, are we talking like in an application, which module? SAS, IS, or PAS? Or in general?
I am speaking here about application. I am speaking about
we can deploy it, but we can deploy application in either of these three modules, right?
okay, that's fine, no problem.
But in like in firewall,
this application under your control in ES or under the cloud service provider in SAS. But here you don't in the SAS, you don't have a permission as a customer to do all these things. It will be responsibility of the cloud service provider. And again, gentlemen, there is one important concept. CCSP, it is not targeted the customers only. We are consider you also as the support team of a cloud service provider. When we are speaking about firewalls, web application firewalls, it is from the point of view of the cloud service provider. It can be from a cloud service provider in SAS, for example, or whatever. Or if it's ES, you can have the same design in the ES. You would say, okay, I am renting servers, but I want a physical, I want a logical network, and I want 3 or 4 zones, and I want these zones to be protected by a firewall, and so on.
Yeah, okay, I get it. So we're speaking generally on any other module, and we will apply these things, or this comprehensive control should be applied.
Yes. Okay. Then the firewall, it's considered as a gateway. And this gateway, usually it will check and control the traffic between different zones. And these zones are connected to the firewall. Firewall, gentlemen, it is working. We have a lot of types of firewalls, but fortunately, this it's not mentioned in our exams, or it's not mentioned in CCSP at all. But just what I want you to understand, very important thing, that the firewalls, it is a physical device. We know that the firewall is a physical device. It may be a server, and it has software, or it may be an appliance, and it is a PC with a software. But now in the cloud, how can I have this configuration? How can I have this device to be installed in a network cloud service provider? It will be very difficult. Why? Because I may have one host here, and this host, we have the VMs. How can I insert a firewall between 2 VMs here? This is very difficult. It's not workable. Then what is the workable solution? The workable solution here, that whatever any firewall, you can have this firewall as an image. You can have it as an image, and you can install this firewall software over the VM. If you install it over the VM, what will happen? In this case, it acts as one of the normal VMs, and whatever any traffic, it will move from one VM to another VM. It can pass through this firewall, And if it's already allowed, then it will go to the second VM and so on. And here, this is the concept which you have to take in your consideration. If you are planning to have your ES implementation and you want to have your security controls there, then this means that you must have the firewalls in form of images, and it can be installed on the machines or the VMs. These are the firewall. And as we mentioned that the firewalls, it's considered as a gateway. It is a gateway. We have another device which is called WAV. What is WAV? It is Web Application Firewall. Usually, gentlemen, firewalls, it is working in layer 3 and layer 4. The firewall as a firewall. This is very confusing. Now, I am quite sure you are thinking, what about next generation firewall? It is able to do IPS and all this stuff, and this is in the application layer. Then how the firewall is working in layer 3 and layer 4? Gentlemen, the firewalls as a firewall, it is a gateway. It will allow traffic and it will deny traffic. That's it. This is a firewall. If I have other modules to be installed over the firewall, it does not mean that it's a firewall. If I have a next generation firewall and it has an IPS module and anti-malware and all this stuff, then I will not say that the firewall, it will work in the layer 7. No, I would say the IPS, it is working in the layer 7. Okay? When we are saying web application firewall, these are firewalls which are working in the layer 7. What do you mean? What do you mean by web application firewall? Web application firewall means that it reaches to the data or the application layer. Again, what do you mean? Okay, to understand this, let's have a quick overview about a packet. Usually, you will find the packet in this format. You will find here source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port. You may find here CRC, and you will find here the data. If the normal firewall, it will work in this area. Layer 3 and layer 4. If the firewall, it's able to browse the data here, then this means that it's working in layer 7. And why do we need this? Because do you remember, gentlemen, when we said that the attacks, for example, SQL injection? Okay, I know that SQL injection. Okay, you know it, but how you can protect it? The application, it cannot do it. The application, it cannot do this protection. Then what we can do? What we can do, okay, then I will have a firewall here, or WAF, let's say it WAF. And this WAF, it is connected to the servers where the applications are reside. Then whatever any request, it will come here to the WAF, it acts as a firewall, which it will browse all the HTTP traffic to check it. Do we have any SQL command? Do you have any injection? Do you have any cross-site scripting attack? Do you have whatever any type of attacks? It will be checked here before going to the application. Although the application should do this, but as we mentioned, if it's not able to do it, or if you have a critical application and you want to provide what we can say, additional security level by using the web. Then the web, it will take each and every connection, check it if it's secure or not. If it's secure, then it will allow to the servers. If it's not, then it will drop it, and this attack, it will never reach to the application. One question here, gentlemen. Do you think that when we are saying WAF, it will be able to check the email traffic?
No.
Why?
I think that is what my question was actually initially, that in case if an company organization has a WAF, does it mean that it will always protect all SQL injection attacks?
This, yes, because SQL, it is related to web. Then yes, it will protect against web, against any SQL. But my question now, it is email. Am I able to protect the email traffic?
No, it will not. Why? Because it is email traffic is basically, it is on the network. So the WAF will be only
Suppose
to the
that
application.
I am logging through a browser, OWA.
Okay, so what is the question? Sorry, I didn't understand the question, sir.
Am I able to protect my email traffic by using WAF?
WAF is a web application firewall. No, that's what I said. No, you cannot protect.
Why?
You need to have I think on the network. Actually, this one is for the application, so it will only whenever, I mean to say, if there is a web application and then for which in case if there is any attack made, it will only prevent to that only. But I think email is a communication between it's a communication between one network to another network. So I think you need to only an email traffic can be protected only by a network. I mean to say firewall only.
No, this is not the right answer. The right answer, gentlemen, when we are saying that the firewall, it is able to check the traffic on the data portion, this means that it must be able to understand the nature of this traffic. When I am saying it will be able to check the web traffic, then it should know what is the get command, what is the post command, how the data it can be posted using the URL, and all this information. Then email traffic, it's totally different structure of data. It's totally different structure of data. When this means that the WAF, it will not be able to understand it. Then when you are saying that I have an application firewall, when you will say that I have application firewall, then this means the application firewall must be able to understand the nature of traffic itself. Then when you are buying the firewalls, this should be application firewall for web traffic, for email, for FTP, for TFTP, for whatever. You got the point here? In normal firewalls, when we are saying it's checking IP address and port, it will be the same whatever the nature of the packet, because the packet, this information, it will be the same. This information, it will be the same. Is it email, it's web, it's whatever it is, I don't care. The only difference is it will be in this area. But now in this area, if it's different, then whatever any application which it will go inside the data portion and try to analyze it, how it will be able to analyze it and check if this is standard traffic or it is an attacks or it is compatible with the RFCs and all these things. It must have the information about about these things, and this is not easy, except if the firewall itself, it is understanding the nature, if understanding the nature of the traffic, and this is very important point. This is the reason why we call it web application firewalls. It's web application firewall. It will be utilized for monitoring web traffic. Email, no, it is not. You may buy some firewalls. I think it is not available anymore. I think the application web, it is available, but web application where, sorry, I mean application firewalls, it's not available. But almost 10 or 15 years ago, application firewalls, it was very powerful and very expensive. They are not available anymore. Web, it may be available, but for other applications, it may not be available. But this, you have to understand that the application firewall, it must be able to understand the data structure and data format and language of the data portion. Otherwise, the firewall, it will not be able to understand if there is any attack or not. How it will understand if I'm not able to discover the structure or the data itself? How can I answer your questions if I don't understand the English language? If I don't understand the English language, then I will not be able to do this training course, because you are English language speakers. On the other side, if I have other team who are working in Arabic language, if I don't know the Arabic language, then I will not be able to conduct this training again. Then I have to understand what is the language which is common for or used by the trainees. Then I will use it to be able to provide the course in a proper way with the same language which the trainees can understand. Okay. This it was the second device. First device firewall, second device web. The third device, it is the XML firewalls. XML firewall, gentlemen, it is something like the web, but the web, it will be able to check traffic for HTTP. For the XML, it will be able to check it for XML traffic. Then it will be able to validate the XML code. It will be able to validate XML code, and it can check if it's legal or there is any problem which it should be blocked from the applications. Then the XML firewalls, there are a lot of protocols we are using the XML. Yani one of the most important application use it is a SAML. SAML, it is XML-based access control, authentication and authorization. When the XML, it is very important, and this it's used for the applications. Also, you have the XML accelerators. This to increase the performance instead of do this exercise on the application itself, and this it will consider that it will decrease the performance of the application. Then by using the XML accelerator, this it will improve the application firewalls and application performance and availability, because all the check on the code and all the things, it will be on dedicated devices, which of course it's equipped with high processor, high memory, and so on. These are the XML devices, and they are important. Yani I want you to know about them because, as I told you, these questions you may find it in two different modules, for application and for network security modules. You have another component which is called database activity monitoring.
Sir, before you move forward, can you please explain once more, because I'm still not very clear the difference between application firewall and XML firewall. So XML firewall will only do if the application gets converted in an XML code.
XML, it will do for XML. That's it. Nothing less, nothing more. Web, it will do it for HTTP. So simple.
So the thing is that suppose I have an application. Okay, sir, I'm giving an example. Besides, it's a live example. We have certain regulatory reports, which are applications. which the banks have to submit, and then that gets converted into XML before it goes to the regulator. So in this case, whether now these banks are actually, these are our clients, they're moving to cloud solution. So as an architect, should I actually advise them to also have an XML firewall and a WAF firewall, both in place?
Yes.
Or just a WAF is sufficient?
Application, 1 minute. Application firewall, as we mentioned, application firewall, it depends upon the application. Application firewall, it is a concept, high concept. Application firewall. Under application firewall, it can be WAF, it can be XML appliance or XML firewall, and so on.
Okay.
When
Okay.
the XML here, it will be able to monitor XML traffic only. Here we have HTTP. If you have any other application, for example, email or whatever, and you have email appliance or email firewall, okay, then but each one of them is independent on each other.
Sir, once again, I'm now super confused. Now I think a couple of minutes back, what I understood is that the email traffic also would be checked by the
Forget
WAF.
about email traffic. I did not mention email traffic. Forget email traffic.
Okay.
Forget email traffic.
Okay, sir. So, sir, what is the sequence? I mean, sir, which one would be placed first? Whether the WAF firewall should be placed first and then the XML. I think in terms of sequence, I mean, saying in terms
There
of
is
data
no
flow.
relation. I don't know why you are confusing yourself. There is no relation between, it depends upon your application. What is your application? It's configured in. Is it HTTP or XML coding?
So, sir, suppose if I have 5 applications and 4 applications, it is in HTTP and 1 application is on XML base, I need both the firewalls.
Yes.
Okay, now my question is that what is the I mean, how do I structure it in data flow?
Make any difference. It will not make any difference.
Okay.
Because if you will have the XML in the first, then you have the web, and here it will have the server, and XML traffic it's coming, then it will be checked here. And when it will come the web, it will check only the HTTP.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The database activity monitoring, it is real-time monitoring activities for the database for any security problem. Of course, it has multiple concepts. It has a concept for signatures. It can compare signatures with the database. It can act as behaviors, whatever the methods which it can be used. But what I want you to know that it's a real-time monitoring tool for the database. Whatever any database activities, create transaction, edit transaction, delete transaction, whatever, when we monitoring, it will start to check it. Is it normal? Yes, accept it. If it's not, drop it or send what we can say, send a notification for the administrator to tell him that there is something abnormal, it's happening on the network. Okay. There is another very interesting concept, which it is called the API gateways. What is the API gateway? API gateway, in some situation, it acts as reverse proxy. Did you hear about this expression before?
I have heard, but I'm not clear on the concept. The difference between reverse and forward proxy.
Okay. Suppose that you have a network here. Here you have users. We want to access the internet. You have here a firewall. You have here a proxy server. Each user does not have a permission to go direct to internet. Then what he should do? He go to proxy server go to the internet, get the data, then the proxy, it will send it back. This the normal proxy server. This which we call it forward proxy. I am working as your proxy. You are not going outside. I will go on your behalf, get whatever any information required, and get it back to you. Type, okay. What is reverse proxy? Reverse proxy, it is something different. Reverse proxy, you have here servers. And these servers are connected again to the firewall. And you have here reverse proxy. Usually, if you want to publish any of these services, you have to publish it by IP address, public IP address. Then if you mention the IP address of any server, you will be able to reach it from outside with the internet. Then if I want to reach, I will go through the firewall, then to this server. But this is not a secure concept, because if there is any attack or whatever, then they will have something called reverse proxy. What is reverse proxy? Reverse proxy, it is the concept of the proxy, but in a reverse method. It will receive all the connection on my behalf. Then in this case here, when there is a client want to access this client, he want to access this server, then he will go to the reverse proxy first. I will define the IP address. I will say that the IP address of this server, it will be hosted in this reverse proxy. I don't have any public IP addresses here at all. All the IP addresses on the server, it will be private. I don't have any public. But on the reverse proxy, I will define whatever any traffic it's coming to this public IP address, it will come to reverse proxy. The reverse proxy, it will make a check. Usually, it will have a WAF module. Usually it will have a WAF module or maybe XML firewall or whatever. It depends upon the type of the proxy itself. Then it will check the traffic. Do we have any risks or threads or whatever, or it's clean? No, it's clean. Then if it's clean, then I will forward to the server. If it's not clean, then I will drop it and I will not allow this to reach to the server at all. This, what we call it, reverse proxy. Okay. In the chat, we have one comment. In Azure, this is called application gateway. That's fine. The names, it will, if Azure, it will call it something. In each cloud service provider, we have their names. But anyway, the concept, it is the same. This which we call it reverse proxy. This which we call it reverse proxy. Reverse proxy, usually it will act, but it is not a firewall, because it will application firewall. It will take the traffic, it check it, make sure that it's clean, then it will allow. Then this means that this reverse proxy, it will publish all your services. Publish all your services and servers. If people want to access email, it will come to reverse proxy. If you want to access website, come to reverse proxy. You want to access ERP, come to reverse proxy. Then it will make a check, and if it's clean, then it will forward to the proper server to allow the connection. Okay? Any questions? Right. I think we can go to our break for 15 minutes. Then we will come back.
Sir, if I may ask you to repeat certain concepts again on that reverse proxy and forward proxy, sir.
Reverse proxy, it is used to publish servers. But forward proxy, it is used to allow users to make connections. to maybe outside internet as browsing internet, for example. But for the reverse proxy, it will be act as a gateway, which it will receive all the connection to any server. And this proxy, it will have maybe a WAV, XML check, whatever, and it will check that the traffic it is safe. And if it's safe, it will allow to pass to the server after it is checked.
Okay.
Okay. The other concept of the network devices, which it can be utilized with the application, it is the sandboxing. Sandboxing, gentlemen, this it is something as a separate area. It is isolated area where you can run processes on a system or application without affecting the other systems. Yani, for example, you know that if you have a physical memory, and this physical memory RAM, for example, or whatever, you have some applications are running. Then if one of these application is corrupted, usually it corrupt all the whole memory. Then if it's corrupted, it can corrupt the whole memory. Then it came the operating system that it will run each application in a specific area, and it will be isolated from the other. Then if this area is defective, it will not affect the others. But this is handled by the application. The operating system, sorry. But if you want to manage this by the applications, or to have the same concept with the applications, how it will work? It will work by using the concept of sandboxing. When the sandboxing, it will act as you are dedicated a specific area and isolated from the other production. Then if there is any corruption on this area, it will not affect the production at all. What is the benefit? The benefit that it will allow you to run some applications which you are not aware about their behavior, or you don't know what is their behavior, or you have some applications which you want to test it and you are afraid that these behaviors, it may have a negative effect on the application, and so on. Also, the sandboxing concept, it will be really a good solution for if you want to run a testing as a testing environment. You have a new code and you want to test this new code or this new application deployment. How you can test it? It can be tested in sandboxing. If it's running properly, that's great. You can implement it live. But if it's not, I don't care at all, because this is in an isolated area. It will not affect the overall environment, and it will not affect my applications. This is the concept of the sandboxing. We have another concept, it's called application virtualization. What is application virtualization? Application virtualization, gentlemen, that the application, it can run in isolated environment. Even it will not interact or directly interact with the operating system. And this one of the most important concepts which I want you to understand. Usually when you have an application, this application, it will run under the control of the operating system. Then, if this application wants to send some data to a processor for processing, it will inform the processor, then it will inform the operating system, and it will tell the operating system, please, Mr. Operating System, I want to send this data to the processor. Then it will take what we can say, its turn or queue to move this data into the processor, then it will go back into the memory registry, and the operating system, it will be able to handle all these things. But when we are speaking about application virtualization, this means that the application, it will not communicate at all with the operating system. It will not communicate with the operating system. It will be isolated even from the operating system. And this is one of the benefits where you can test an application without affecting the environment, or even the most useful piece of information here, that this application, it may be a Windows application, but it can run over Linux application to be checked. For example, I want just to check it, how it will work. You will find here, I don't have any problem, because this is not communicating with the operating system. It has a direct connection with some DLL or whatever as a part of its structure. Then this means that you will be able to fully test and validate applications or any upgrades, and without compromise your system or have any possible risks against these systems. The important point which you have to understand, that not all the applications, it will be able to support virtualization, because as I mentioned, the virtualization, this means that the application, it will not communicate with the operating systems, and not all the applications it's designed to support virtualization. Then virtualization, it will be only valid for the concept of this application, which is able to what we can say, that it's designed from scratch to be virtualized. It should be enabled from scratch to be virtualized. By the way, gentlemen, the application virtualization, it is considered the base. It is considered the base of the containers, which is one of the security concepts. It's something more secure than the, not more secure, but a new technology rather than the virtualization. The container, it have a dedicated container which have application and all the required application libraries and components required for the operating system. When there is no need to speak to operating system, whatever any required from the operating system, it will be installed in the container. When the container consists of the application plus the operating system related files, and this, it will make life very easy, because this means that you don't need to have operating system on the VM itself. On the VM, you don't need to have an operating system. You can have the operating system on the host only, and on the VM you can have a container, and this container, it will have the application and the mandatory or necessary files from the operating system. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, do you know of any solution like application virtualization?
Unfortunately, no. I don't have this, but I think if you are interested in application virtualization, you have to think about the containers, Kubernetes or whatever.
Yeah, I know, like Docker and Kubernetes, like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But it's considered security, because this is like a whole different field.
Of course, we are totally secure. Yani, we are considered more secure than the others, because if we are getting rid of the operating system, then we are removing one layers of the risks. Operating system represent a big risk for us. When if we are eliminating the operating system, we are eliminating a layer of the risks. And of course, now the container, it is talk of the town. Why? Because in the new era for the cloud, we are speaking about migration of the application, maybe from one cloud service provider to another, or from on-prem to a cloud, or from cloud into on-prem, and so on. If you are using the concept of the container, then migration, it should be piece of cake, very easy. I don't have any underlying infrastructure which I should provide for my running application. It may operating systems or patches and so on. But the container, it will be as overall a unit, which it can be migrated from one site to another site.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. We will discuss now the IAM, concepts of IAM, how to properly design IAM solution. IAM, it is identity access management. And we mentioned, gentlemen, the IAM, it has the three components. Identification, who are you? Authentication, prove your identity. Authorization, what you are authorized to do over a network. And the accounting, what did you do over the network? What did you do over the network? We have the concept of federated identity, and I think we spoke about the federation before. And we mentioned that the federation, that where it will allow each organization to maintain its own identification and verification system. The LDAP, whatever any organization, they may have their LDAP server, which it have all the credentials. This LDAP, whatever it is, it can be Active Directory, it can be Linux, it can be Unix, whatever it is. And by the end of the day, all this information, it can work together, or this information can work together with the other sites. Then if I want to access any information, or I want authentication for any cloud service provider or any other organization or entity, there is no need to create a username and password for each of these organizations. I can make a federation connection between the two LDAP servers for authentication. And when we you are trying to access whatever any cloud service provider infrastructure or organization infrastructure, and your accounts is defined in your organization LDAP server, when the cloud service provider server, it will communicate with your organization access control server, or I mean LDAP server, and it will check the authentication authorization. If it's allowed, then it will allow you the access. If it's not allowed, then it will drop your connection. One of the popular open source product is called Shibboleth. Usually, Shibboleth, I hear about it only in universities and research world, because it's free. It is used as open source system, which is really a good example for understanding this LDAP and authentication system and federation. This the system where it is for free, you are able to utilize it for free without any license or whatever. You have to understand, when we are speaking about the IAM, what about the protocols supported here? What are the protocols supported here? We have three main protocols. You have three main protocols. Number one, you have SAML, you have O authentication, and OpenID. These are the common protocols. Of course, SAML, gentlemen, this is the latest standard. It is, by the way, version 2. And this is the standard. SAML, it is a standard. Whatever any cloud service provider, if it's not support Active Directory and whatever, then it will be SAML. And SAML, you will find that it is compatible with most of the application which we know it right now, and the cloud service providers and whatever. SAML, it is support authentication and authorization. They support authentication and authorization process. Okay? And we have the concept of identity provider, service provider, and the client. SAML, it is using XML assertions. We are using the XML in the authentication and authorization process. To understand this scenario, let's say that we have your organization here. You have your Active Directory here. And you have a cloud service provider, which they have a specific service and you want to communicate with. You are the user, you are sitting in home, you are connected through the internet. Then you initiate a connection to the cloud service provider. You ask for the service. Then the cloud service provider, he asks you, please authenticate yourself. You defined username and password, and you sent it back into the cloud service provider. The cloud service provider, it checked the username and it found that it is defined as a federation. And this federation, it's coming from the organization Active Directory. Then what it will do, it will send the credential information to the organization Active Directory, and it will check the reply. If it will say yes, it is allowed, this traffic it's allowed, and it is authenticated and allowed, then the cloud service provider service, it will send a approval for the agent and it will be able to access the resources. If we defined here the identity provider, service provider, and the client, this component, it is considered what? Of a SAML. What is this component?
Which component you highlighting? The device?
I am highlighting it.
The client.
Yes, this is the client. What about this one?
You mean
What's the
Active
name of
Directory?
this one?
You mean the Active Directory?
Yes.
It should be the identity provider.
Yes, the identity provider. And of course, this it will be the service provider. Okay. This is the SAML protocol. It is very important to understand the concepts. It is very important to understand the components. It's very important to know that it is XML based. Okay. This the first protocol. The second protocol, it is the AOU authorization or authorization. Gentlemen, latest version, it is version 2. Take care. Take care. It is used only for authorization. It is used only for authorization. Okay, and usually it will be used for HTTP services. Usually it will be used for HTTP services, authorization of HTTP services. And by the way, it is not used anymore. Yani, frankly speaking, I do not hear about open authentication at all right now. Although there is a new version which it supports authorization, but I did not hear about it. Why? Because the standard it's SAML. When we are speaking, usually we are saying SAML. But anyway, we have to understand this for the exam. The second protocol, it is the Open ID. Open ID. There is no space between them. Open ID, open identification. And latest version, it is version 2. And it is used for authentication. It is used for authentication only. It is used for authentication. And it has the same concept as the identity providers, service provider, and so on. They have the same concept as is. And by the way, gentlemen, this is a free authentication method. Free authentication method or mechanism. Free authentication mechanism. This means that if you have an application and you include Open ID in your application, no one it will ask you for license, no one it will ask you for copyright and so on. Okay, and it is provide a web-based application authentication mechanism. Then this one, it will provide the authentication for web-based applications. As you can see, authentication for HTTP, Open ID for web-based, and all of them browsers. Because, you know, 99% of the applications, it is running under browsers, or I don't want to say 100%, but now we have new era when we had the mobile devices, iOS, Apple, so on and so on. We have different concepts, and it's not browser, it is applications. And in this case, SAML, it will be the solution. But if you are running the application as a browser, then you can use the open authentication or Open ID. Open ID, it is used for authentication, and authentication, it is used for authorization. Okay. We have another important factor, which is single sign-on. Can you tell me what is single sign-on? Any feedback or any answer?
Single sign-on is a kind of a it's a kind of a tool which is used wherein you don't have multiple user IDs and passwords. You sign in once, and the same user ID and password can be used across multiple within the same organization. I mean, it's like in case if you have to log into the database or you want to log into any other applications and other things, you use the single sign-in.
Okay, we can say yes, it is right, but we have to highlight one important concept here. It is not a matter of multiple authentications. It's not a matter of multiple credentials. But what is it? You know, gentlemen, I have an Active Directory here. And I have app 1. I have app 2. I have app 3. Each one of these apps, it supports one specific method for authentication. As we mentioned, the authentication is defined in the application coding. For example, this app 1, the developer, he utilizes the Open ID and authentication. In app 2, it is SAML. In app 3, it is the LDAP, Active Directory, the normal Active Directory compatible. It can support the LDAP process. If you are a user here and you want to access these applications, each one of them, it has its own protocol and different technique. Then this means that when you want to access app 1, you have to use the client for app 1, which is using the OpenID and the authentication. For app 2, SAML, and app 3, the normal Active Directory. But this, it will make life very difficult. Why? We want the user only to authenticate the Active Directory. And we will have a centralized system here. Centralized system here, or application, in other words, it will be an application. And this application, it will be responsible to communicate with the Active Directory and all this application in its way or in its compatible protocol. Then, if you want to access app 1, you are authenticated by the Active Directory. The Active Directory, or this centralized application, it will be able to change the authentication method into open authentication and open authentication and OpenID, and make the proper authentication for you. If you want to communicate with app 3, it will utilize the Active Directory, and so on. Then this means that whatever any time you don't need to enter your username and password in different clients and so on. No, because this, it will be in the background. You already authenticated when the access directory, the Active Directory do the exercise. Because when you are authenticated by the Active Directory, you will have something called token, and this token, if you want to access any resource, the token, it will be sent to the Active Directory and check if you are authorized or not. If you are authorized, then it will allow you to make the connection, or it will make the connection on your behalf, and it will send you the token and update it with the authorization permission. Then you will be able to access this application. This is the concept of the single sign-on. We have another concept which we spoke about it before, and I think you are familiar with the multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication, as we mentioned, you are authenticated by 3 methods. What are they? I need someone to tell me what are the methods or factors which are used for authentication.
What you have, what you are, and what you know.
Something you know, something you have, something you are. That's right. Something you know, password. Something you have, maybe email address, mobile for receiving SMS, or one-time password over SMS or email. Something you are, it is the biometrics. It can be fingerprint, it can be face print, it can be iris print, it can be retina print, whatever it is. Any part of your body which it can be, and of course in something you are, it can be as which we call it dynamic and static. Yani, for example, if I want to make my signature, this is my signature, for example. The way of type this, it is considered as a unique method, and it can be utilized as a dynamic because there is a movement while you are defining yourself. There are many factors of it. Unfortunately, CCSP, we are not calling the concepts as we mentioned right now, but we have the almost same concepts. Something the user know, And it is very close because something you have, something the user possess, which is something you have, or something the user is, which is something you are. I am repeating this because this may confuse you in the exam. And I know that it's easy and you can figure out the differences, but again, I want to avoid any confusion in the exams. I want to avoid any confusions in the exams. Okay. Another concept which is called cloud access security broker. A lot of people, they don't know this concept. We know CASB, or we call it CASB. Anyone know what is CASB?
It can be used as a tool or as a, I mean, it's as a person. So who will try
Person,
to
as a
make,
person?
sorry?
It can be used as tool or what?
No, some people actually use the terminology CASB in a very different way. Some people say that it is a tool. Some people say that they are actually, I mean to say they act like a kind of a broker intermediary who will try to do following jobs. One is they try to maintain, they do the IAM activities, a few, and they do the key management.
No, CASB, it has nothing to do with key management.
I mean, it's like you can actually suppose if you are trying to do encryption, you can hand over the encryption keys actually to the CASB. Some
No.
cloud.
No. CASB, it has nothing to do like that. This is what you are saying, it's a broker. What you are saying now, it's a cloud broker. It is not a CASB. CASB, it's a tool or software tool that it is doing some specific functions. Key management and all this stuff, it is not one of the CASB tools. What you are mentioning, it is broker, cloud broker, to do key management, to do encryption, to do authentication or access control, whatever it is. But CASB, it does not have anything to do like that. CASB, it's considered as a broker. Yes, it's a broker because it will break your connection between the client and the cloud service provider. CASB, it's a broker. Yes, it's a broker. And even the name, P, it stands for broker. But the CASB, this is a software tool or a service which is reside between the, you have a user here, you have here the internet, you have here the cloud service provider, and your user, he is trying to access the data. You have this, it may be in the cloud service provider, or usually it will be in the organization side with the CASB. The CASB, this is a tool where it acts as, or it does the function of a firewall. It will manage whatever any traffic exchange between the users and the CASB. It can be utilized for as a WAF. It will check whatever any HTTP traffic. It can be used for DLP, data loss prevention. It can be used for DLP as data loss prevention. It will be a tool for compliance and check compliance for regulations and law. If you are sending private privacy data in clear text, then it will say that this is not protected because GDPR, you are not in compliance with GDPR and so on. It will be able to force organization policies over the traffic. These are the functions of the CASB. CASB, it is a very important tool. And now when you are choosing the CASB, you have to make sure that this CASB is it compatible with the cloud service providers or not. It is not only to provide in ears that you are, for example, I want to integrate or I have a SaaS service from whatever, Azure, it can be AWS, Google, whatever. And in some situation, you want to make sure that all your security policies are applied. Then how you can do it? This you can utilize the CASB. CASB, it has different implementation, something called forward implementation and reverse not backward, reverse implementation, where this is called forward, and you can install it here, and this it can act as reverse. It depends upon the design, but by the end of the day, these are the functions of the CASB tool. These are the functions of the CASB tool. CASB tool is very important, gentlemen, if you are interested in compliance, interested in firewall functions, web authentications, monitoring traffic, data loss prevention. This it can be handled by the CASB tool. Okay. I am really glad to tell you that we finished module number 4 today. Any questions?
So CASB can also act as a kind of a DLP also, right?
Yes.
That's what is.
Yes.
Okay.
Can be, yes. Because it can check the classifications, it can check patterns, it can check words, a lot of things which is considered as a concept for the CASB, the DLP.
Okay, Mr. Usama, I have a question.
Go ahead.
In real life, let's suppose our network or your network, or you say right now, this device want to access the cloud service provider, right? And he will go through the internet and he will have CASB. In that scenario that you have mentioned, then if CASB has firewall, WAF, TLP, compliance, regularity, whatever, then are we going to have physical firewall, for example, antivirus? Are we going to have all of these things that we have just mentioned earlier, or CASB can do it?
Okay, this is a good question. This is a good question. It depends. It depends. It depends upon your security policy. What do you want to achieve? What are your security objectives? If you are able to achieve it with the WAF, that's fine. With the CASB, that's fine. But of course, I will not be able to compare next generation firewall with the CASB, because of course CASB, it will not be able to provide all these things. This is number one. Number two, I can follow the concept of defense of depth, defense in depth. I can provide multiple layers. I can have a firewall and I can have the CASB as well. Then this it will be another concept. And again, it depends upon your requirements and upon your security policy. Another approach here, you can have the CASB and just enable some of its features. I want to make the compliance, I want to make the DLP or whatever, then this it will be okay. And for example, here, if you enable the DLP, I will not be able to say that the whole DLP solution, it will not be useful. Why? Because as we mentioned in the DLP, we have multiple components for the DLP. We have components which it will be installed on servers and workstations. We have components which it will be installed on email gateways. You have components which it will be installed on proxy server. You have components which it will be installed on a network, and so on. Then, as you can see in this example, if you are having the WAF, it will be monitor the traffic, which it can act as the part of the proxy. Part of the proxy type. What about the part of the network? I want to monitor the network traffic. What about the part of the email gateways? if you have an email gateway inside your company. If this email it's not migrated outside, what about the servers and workstations? If you have any internal servers, and a lot of customers, they may have hybrid implementation, and this hybrid implementation, it means that you may have some servers inside your network and so on. When in your question, the answer, it depends upon your needs, upon your infrastructure. Yeah, and usually if you will tell me, please tell me what do I need, first of all, I will tell you, show me your network, show me your security policy, and so on. Then based on this information, I will decide, yes, we need it. But here, for example, the DLB, what about the server components? What about the, in this case, I can tell you, for example, okay, you can eliminate this part. If it's a license, don't pay for it, and you can depend upon the CCSP, for example. Then by the end of the day, it depends upon your needs and requirements. There are some other organizations which we are considered, this is considered as defense in depth. Defense in depth, okay. In the CCSP, there may be some DLB. Okay, I want another DLB. Then if there is any data, it was able to bypassed by the first solution, it will be captured by the second one. Then again, it will be based in the security policy, where you mentioned that you require the defense in-depth approach. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. But yeah, I understand. I mean, in real, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but in the real environment, are companies or people using this CCSP, or they have their own setup and just it's another feature, luxury feature, let's say?
It's not luxury. It's not luxury. Unfortunately, people, they are not mature in the cloud environments yet. People who are moving their infrastructure into cloud, we are not mature. Why? Because we are thinking we are saving money, and this is the main business driver here. Unfortunately, this is the main business driver, that I want to save some money, I want to save operations, and so on. When this is the main business driver which we push people for the cloud migration. But if we have sophisticated and professional security policies, compliance requirements, yani for example, if you are speaking about Aramco, about SABIC, about these big organizations, you will not be able to say that just the cloud, I have a cloud solution and that's it, because I must comply with the NCA regulation, I must comply with the international laws and regulation, because I have regions all over the world and all this information. How can I make sure that I am compliant with the GDPR, I am compliant with HIPAA, I am protecting privacy and all this stuff? How can I make sure that all my secure data, it's not leaked through my cloud service provider? Yani, suppose that in the cloud service provider in Azure, of course, you have the OneDrive. OneDrive, it can be used very effective to exchange data with your colleagues, and on the same on the other hand, I can utilize it to leak some confidential data out of my network. If you have a connection and published data, I mean subscription with the Azure, you have the OneDrive. Who will prevent you from share confidential data through the OneDrive? Who can do it? It is the DLB. Then the DLB here, yes, if you have the CCSP, it will be able to discover it. It can able to tell you, take care, you are moving your data in a clear text. Then if you have any credentials or whatever, then this means that you will be in a trouble. Sorry, not credential, I mean privacy data. You will be in a trouble. You are not compliant with the BII and so on. And also this CCSP, we have defined the RFCs and the requirements of this GDPR. And in CCSP, you have to go and tell him this CCSP, give me a report for GDPR compliant. It will check the traffic and it will inform you if you are compliant or not. And if it's not, then it will tell you what are the citations which you have to do it and so on. Then as practical, I will not be able to say that I saw these applications running in a professional way, not yet. But I will not be able to say also that you don't need it. No, you need it. And this it's considered as first objective we will speak about when we will speak about the cloud governance. Because immediately when you will speak about migration and all this stuff for application, of course, you have to speak about governance, how we can govern our infrastructure. Then first thing we have to ask here, what about the tools? I will not, how can I monitor something which I can see? Do you think that I will send all the traffic into SIM? Okay, I will send the traffic into SIM. That's fine, no problem. I can do it. But what will happen? The SIM, it will discover that there is a problem after it happened. It will not be able to act proactively. Then this means that you will be in a trouble here. But the CASB, it will be able to take an action and it will be able to prevent the data to be shared or to be leaked outside the network. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we still have 15 minutes, but of course it's non-logic to start with a new module. We will terminate our session today, and tomorrow we will have a simple exam for the application security. It will be in the form of CCSP exam questions. It will be multiple choice. Check how you are performing after we finish this module, inshallah. Okay, any questions?
Sir, only on domain 4 or like from
No,
domain 3 to 4?
Only on domain 4.
Okay.
It will be only for domain 4. Any other questions?
So I few times I heard from different people that domain 4 is supposed to be easy, but what is
Sorry,
your thought?
I did not hear you. Can you repeat? What did you say?
I heard few times from different people that domain 4 is supposed to be easy. It is not difficult one. But what is your thought? Like, which domain is supposed to be difficult and which one is easy in the exam?
In the exam. Frankly speaking, it depends upon your experience. It depends upon your experience, because this question, if you will ask it during my different sessions, each and every one, he will provide you a different answer. From my point of view, as Usama, I think the network security, it's very easy. Data security, it is very easy. Application, it is medium. I consider medium. Laws and compliance, it's a complicated module. Architecture, it is medium. Why? Because this is based on my experience. I am working as a security engineer. I have a practical experience on devices. When network security, it's piece of cake. Data security, piece of cake. But application, I don't have enough information about the application security. Then you will find that I am a little bit hesitating. I consider it medium. It's not difficult, but it is medium. And alhamdulillah, thanks God, that the CCSP, we are not testing the developing. It is testing the security. Then you will find that it will speak about REST, about SOAP, about secure coding, about top 10, and all this stuff. Laws and regulation, I consider it, I don't like it at all, because there is nothing to understand. There is nothing to understand. It is only to memorize. I hate memorizing. I hate memorizing. I hate memorizing. But there are a lot of people, they are telling me these questions are easy questions. Yani there are some of my trainees, they are telling me that these questions are easy questions. We are not able to play with you. There is nothing. You have something called SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. What we can play with it. SOC 1 means so and so, SOC 2 means so and so, SOC 3 means so and so. When this, if you will memorize it, then module 6, it will be very easy. Module 1, it is little bit complicated because it will speak about a lot of concepts, architecture, and a lot of other things, but you can understand it. This, if you spend some time to understand it, it will be very easy because what is public, private, hybrid, this we can understand it. What is VES, says, PAS, okay. What are the architecture models, SAPSA, and so on? Okay, I can understand it. This you can understand. When to ask me which module it's easier, frankly speaking, again, I will tell you the answer which my trainees hate to hear from me. It depends. It depends upon your experience. If you are working in application, then module 4, it will be very easy. If you are working as network engineer, then module 3, it will be very easy. If you are working in auditing and compliance and governance, then module 6, it will be very easy. And this is the main reason why ISC Square, they mentioned that you must have at least 5 years, at least 1 year experience in one of these modules. Domains, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But as I told you, by the end of the day, passing the exam, it is methodology. It is methodology. I know a lot of people, especially from India. I arranged 2 classes for ISC Square, and these they were students, believe it or not, students. We don't have any experience, and they contacted me through one of my colleagues, and they asked me to arrange this course to them. Then I said, gentlemen, do you know that you will not be able to pass these certification exams? They said, yes, we know. To achieve the certification, we said, yes, we know that. Then why do you want to do it? They said, we are students and we are preparing, and this it will help us in our colleges. Besides, we are allowed to apply for the exam after we passing the to apply for the certificate after we passing the exam by 5 years or something like that. It will give you some specific time. If you pass the exam, then after specific years, I'm not sure how long it is, but you will be able to after this 3 or 4 years to apply for this certificate. With it, at that time, we were working and we will have this chance. But these courses, it will help us to pass the courses in the college, especially we were studying ISO 27001 and cloud and all this information. And this, it will be a good chance for us after a few years, after we are working in any company, to gain the experience years. When we are students, and believe it or not, all of them passed the exam. All of them passed the exam. And I don't want to tell you that most of these persons, they achieved more than 90%. Because they followed the procedure. They followed the methodology. They got exam sample, they studied well, they understood what the ISC Square required you to answer, and they apply for the exam. And they passed. Then passing the exam, it is not difficult, but there may be some questions which you may drop because it is not mentioned in the materials. It depends upon your practical experience, but this, it will not make you fail. This, it will not make you fail.
We are all old students. We are all old, but still we are trying to study here. What is your prep?
I am quite sure, gentlemen, if you apply for the exam, you will pass. يعني I am quite sure about most of you that we will be able to pass from the first try. I am quite sure about this, and I can challenge it. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
challenge it.
definitely. Yeah, it's helpful. Like if you're working in security, definitely it's helpful. Like, I use all these things in my day-to-day work.
Yes,
So
yes.
definitely it's enough.
Passing the exam, it's not an easy is not difficult for you. I'm quite sure you will be able to pass. I am quite sure. My only advice to you, don't be hesitated. Don't feel that you are under preparation. You are not under preparation. You have a good experience. You just get the exam samples, study it well, listen to the videos again, and I'm quite sure that you will be able
Practice.
to pass the exams.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we are planning to start once we are done with the CCSP. Maybe we can join your CISSP class in summertime.
Although I prefer to start with the CISSB, but anyway, that's fine. CISSB, again, it is one of the really respectable certificates. I like it very much. I enjoyed it very much. But frankly speaking, I decided not to teach CISSB courses after that.
Oh,
No, you have to change your mind, Mr. Usama.
It's taking long time. I'll tell you something. I am quite ready to change my mind if this same group, it will attend for CISSB. If the same group now, they will attend CISSB, I am ready for it. Because unfortunately, sorry?
I am ready. That depends on the rest.
CISSB, the main challenge, the last course which I arranged, and by the way, Mahmoud, you know who attended this course? Muhammad.
Muhammad, yes.
Yeah, Muhammad, by the way, he is one of my trainees who referenced me for Mahmoud to attend the CCSB. He attended with me 2 courses. One of them is the CISSB. Believe it or not, gentlemen, yani, we spent 3.5 months in the CISSB course. And we were working very hard because it has a lot of information,
Right.
Although I really enjoyed it, and believe it or not, I passed my CISSB in 2005. Till this moment, 2023, after 18 years, every time I am teaching this course, I learn something new. I learn something new because the material, it may be changed because I am seeing something with a different view. I may discuss some scenarios with the trainees, which it can be very helpful and give me another wide view for the theory or the concept and so on. But I hate my life in these courses because we are so long. When you feel that you are tight, you are dedicated for this course. 2 courses, I decide not to repeat them again. CEH and CISSB.
CH is very easy, Mr. Osama.
Sorry?
CH is very easy.
CEH, it is 32 modules.
I know, I mean, it's not like CISSP.
I mean 32 modules. If you want to, 32 module, even if you want to cover each module in 1 week, you need 32 weeks.
No, I mean, INE is a new, I mean, it's better than CH now. And it has more information.
The CISSB, it has more concepts, which it's really complicated, especially when we start to tell you about the what is the buffer overflow, what does it mean when we say escalation privilege, and how the processor, it has a ring, and one of the processes, it's running in ring 0, while a hacker here was able to insert an application to act as a DLL, when he was able to escalate privilege. You will find these things we are really I don't want to say complicated, but it's not easy. You need someone to explain it to you. I remember one of the scenarios which I explained it to the last group with Muhammad, how the Kerberos it will work. How Kerberos it will work. At this time, I had the whiteboard, and this whiteboard, I had about 6 colors in this whiteboard to explain to them how the traffic, it will move from the client to the server, and from the server to the resource, and how the agent, it will call the resource, and all these things. And after we finalize it, they told me, if you don't mind, we will make a screenshot for this, because this is considered as a reference for us. And frankly speaking, after I finished it, I liked the slide very much, and I asked them to send it to me back, although I had it on my tablet, but when I stopped the sharing, it was deleted. When there are a lot of concepts which you have to explain it, and not easy as CCSP. CCSP, you have to explain it, and you may ask a question, and that's it. But with CISSP, it's not this scenario. CISSP, I can explain something for half an hour, and after that, you will say, sorry, it's not clear. Then I have to repeat it again. Then by the end of the day, you will find that you spend 3 hours in one page. Just one page. You will try to explain it. In the book, it is one page. But for explanation, it took 3 hours. Anyway, gentlemen, it's not the time for CISSP. Let's have this discussion after you pass the CCSP, if you are applying for the exam, and after that, if you are ready for CISSP, we can think about it later, inshallah. Any other questions related to CCSP?
Yeah, one last question. So, Usama, how long do you think we still have until we finish the course?
Not too much. For sure, we will finish before Ramadan, for sure, and not on Ramadan, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before Ramadan. Unfortunately, I have another course which it will start day after tomorrow. This I have to continue after Ramadan. But for your course, I think you are lucky. We start earlier, and we don't need to. Ramadan, it will be in March 23, inshallah. I am expecting that we can finish by first week of March, maximum second week of March, if we need some more time, because the module number 5 and 6, we are easy. Module 5 and 6, we are easy. We don't have a lot of concepts. Module 6, we are some definitions, and you have to memorize it. What is SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3? What is FIBS? What is so and so? It's not a matter complicated modules.
Yeah, okay. I'm in the second course, by the way, in Ramadan.
Inshallah. I will not continue in Ramadan. We will not continue in Ramadan. Usually, I will. I think we will have 3 weeks after Eid, because Ramadan. I don't think that I will. It's nonsense that it will be a Qiyam